Welcome back to the Before You Do podcast with your host and favorite premarital coach, Verlyn Tarlton. We are here with a very special guest, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, Christiane David. She's going to talk to us about money and marriage. I have anticipated this chat since we spoke months ago because I think it's not enough that's being said about money and marriage. We usually think about money and love and money and being in love, but we're going to bring some real conversation to this thing called money and marriage. So first, please tell us about yourself.
Right. So I'm Christiane David, and I'm a money life coach. And I co-founded my coaching practice with my sisters.
Sounds good. So, as it relates to marriage, is there a way to tell beforehand if a couple is financially compatible?
Well, you're going to be surprised by my answer because the way I approach finances is very unique. I really think compatibility is nice because get along in some things, you have some things in common, but it's also something you build.
Mm,
It's something you design. Whatever you want to achieve in life, you create it, right? You don't just get handed it to you.
mm,
Life doesn't happen to you. You make it happen.
mhm,
So you want to talk about compatibility is get to know yourself first, what your style is, and then you can decide if you two are a match. But even if it is not a match, like what do we call a match, right? You can make it happen. You can create that match if you know how to navigate your own emotions and your mindset around your finances. And if you both okay with open communication and collaboration and respect, you can create a compatibility 100%.
that's a great answer. I was thinking something different. Like if you have someone who loves to spend money and then you have an extreme spendthrift, but then again, like you said, you can always balance things out. Maybe that one
Always.
person who spends too much can learn how to save a little, and a person who just grips that money real tight
Yeah.
can learn to let it go a little bit. So that makes sense. So you can grow to compatibility. I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's say we say, okay, looks good so far, right? What kind of money talks should folks be having before they get married?
Yes, that's really important, right?
Hmm.
You need to talk about all the things. You really need to be 100% open about do you have any debt? How much do you owe? What kind of debt is it? Is it a
Hmm.
mortgage? Is it a car? Is it um, business debt? Is it credit card debt? Just be very specific. You need to know each other's credit score, really.
Mm.
You really want to know each other's credit story. I know
Mm.
that sounds like too personal, but you're getting married. You need to be
Mm.
personal. You need to know how each other achieves financial goals. Like
Mm.
what's your approach? How do you set up financial goals? How do you achieve it? What do you do? How do you plan for big vacations? Um, what's your take on investing? Do you have investments? How much do you have invested? When you invest money, how do you get it back? How do you make your investment back? Or like, do you plan on making it back, or are you more of a spender or an investor? Right?
Mm.
Just really personal questions, and then you can also talk about what was life like growing up with finances.
Mm. You're going into my next question.
Okay, good, good, good.
And I tell you what else too, be that as it may, you need to know about child support. Do you have some back child support somewhere? Are you
Yes.
paying alimony? Like those other, I call them third party things that do affect. So,
Yes. You're spending your money. Like, do you have anyone else you're responsible for besides yourself?
mhm, mhm, mhm. Absolutely. The reason why I have been really anxious to have this conversation is there's a gentleman. His name is, I believe, it's Dr. George Fraser. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you need to look him up. He does a lot of statistics, and I'm not making this a race thing, but it is what it is. He did something where he broke down the races in terms of the building of wealth, and the he did, I guess, a statistics, or maybe he was reading for something, and I don't want to misquote him, but generally speaking, what he was saying was in terms of building wealth, like East Indians were number 1, and this is here in America. Number 2 were Asians, number 3, white people, number 4, Hispanics, and number 5, us, as in brown people, or some people say black people, whatever. So it was East Indian number 1, Asians, they were 2nd, white people were 3rd, Hispanics 4th, and then we were on the bottom. And so the interesting statistic was East Indians, their marriage rate was 94%. And Asians, who were in second place, were like 70. And then it went down. We, as a people, were at 34%. And so that's why I think this conversation is important, because there is direct, in my opinion, and I'm going to ask for your professional opinion, there is a correlation with wealth building and marriage, but we don't have these conversations. But he inspired me to look for someone that was the professional. So
Mm,
yeah, so that's really interesting. But yeah,
yeah.
he's a good person to look up, Dr. George Fraser. Okay, so you kind of got into this. What does a person's background have to do with their thoughts or their thought process about money?
Okay. I love that because you're right. Money is such a big deal. And I think that we think we know how big of a deal it is, but it doesn't reflect in our behaviors. So the truth is that we actually don't know how big of a deal money is.
Mm,
So you really need to realize that between 0 and 7 years old, everything that you see around you, you assimilate that and you
yeah.
translate that into your own version. That's why you can grow up in the same household with someone and they have a completely different behavior when it comes
Mhm,
to money. Because the way your brain processed what you saw around you translate that personally. That's why your money story is personal. And that's what then reflects into your adulthood if you never took the time to understand it and to create the money story that you want. Most of us did not get educated on finances.
mhm,
We know about going to the market and making and shop and buying grocery shopping. We know about knowing the 50% sell, but that's not actually saving money, right? We
mm,
don't actually know how to save money and keep money in the savings account. So when you look at your life today, it's a reflection of everything you've accumulated as a child and it turns into who you are. And you have to really see that, like the patterns. You really need to establish that because awareness is such a big deal. If I just tell you that your money story today is a reflection of what you've accumulated as a child, and you agree with me, but you don't see it, you're just gonna
mhm,
keep going doing the things you're doing now.
mhm.
But when you can see the correlation of what happened to your childhood and today, that opens up your eyes and you can decide if you like it. But so then your money story today, whatever relationship you have with your finances today, is completely related, 100%.
So if a person grows up and they hear, we don't have enough money for this, we don't have enough money for that, mom, can I have some money to go to the movies or go to the mall? We don't have enough money for that.
Yeah,
I don't have any money until payday, I'm broke. All of these things that we hear or have heard, you're saying that helps shape our perception
it did.
about money as adults.
It did.
Mm.
And most of us, it only shipped us into a scarcity because as
Mhm.
humans, we have negativity bias.
Mhm.
So everything, if your parents were not purposefully teaching you, molding you to have a better relationship with money, everything you accumulated is just going to turn into scarcity. Really.
Wow.
I mean, even for someone who was like in a family of savers, you're still going to live in scarcity. You could be a saver, but you don't know what to do with those savings. Or you just like a money hugger.
Mhm.
You don't easily spend,
Mhm.
right? And you're investing your risk tolerance is really low. That's still scarcity because that still doesn't create abundance and joy around your finances. So you really want to check in with that like, okay, what's happening?
Okay, so my question now, it just popped in. You
That's
made me
fine.
think about this. How would you, right, talk to someone? How do you get over that hurdle of a scarcity mindset if that's what you saw especially for the first 7 years of your life. And now you're thinking about getting married and having children. So
Mhm.
not only is this about you and whoever you're going to marry, but transferring this mindset to your future children. How do you get
Yeah.
over that?
That's exactly what we're trying to avoid here, right? We need to break
Right.
that cycle.
Before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to gain awareness. You really want to look at yourself and like your money behavior. Like, how do you spend money? Why do you spend money? How do you feel when you're spending money? Like, what's causing you to spend money the way you do? You want to know. And when I talk about spend money, I'm not talking about bills. We
Mm-hmm.
all have bills, and you can look into your bills and see if you need to reduce some, if you're overdoing it on some apps or whatever, that's fine, right? But I'm talking about spending, going out to dinner, traveling, shopping, clothing, stuff like that. Even gifting to people, being
Mm-hmm.
generous. You need to look into that because some people gift out of duty,
Mm-hmm.
out of should, right? And that's not a good place to give from. But it's just kind of something you've just accumulated in your brain and you're just doing it on repeat, on automatic. You want to check in with those. So like what I always tell my clients is track your spending for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Don't track your bills. Like I said, bills are not part of this
Okay.
conversation. Track your spending. When you're spending money, that's not part of your bills or your necessities. And then also track what you're thinking about when you're spending it, how you're feeling when you're spending, and how you feel after you spend. You really need to make sure you check those two, if the emotion is the same or if it's different, because that's going to let you know that if you're spending, are you spending on purpose? Are you spending out of your values? Are you in alignment? Do you feel good about your spending, or do you have a lot of mind drama? Do you have a lot of regrets after you
Mm-hmm.
spend money? Do you have a financial decision framework? Do you know what to do when you want to make a decision with money? And we make money decisions every single day.
Mm-hmm.
What's guiding
Mm-hmm.
those decisions, right? So when you create that level of awareness, you can see, okay, so I usually tend to, I'm an overspender. You can think that, okay, based on this track record, I'm an overspender. Now you need to find out why you're an overspender. And you can be someone who loves shopping, but an overspender is someone who's like pushing the boundaries, and then there are other things that are suffering in their lives, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if that's you and you want to stop that, just own that first and then create a plan that includes your values, your goals, your priorities. When you have those three things laid out really clean, really clear, it's you can just go from there. Because now before you make a decision about money, you can just be like, is this aligned?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to take me to where I want to go? If not, then we need to figure out, okay, why do I still want to spend the money? How can I teach my brain not to want something that will not support my future goals?
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
That's the conversation you want to have.
Yep. Tell Amazon not today.
Exactly.
I'm talking to myself.
I used to be such a
Oh.
spender. Oh my
Ugh.
goodness. I had no restraint. And so, yeah, I've come a long way.
Mhm, mhm. Well, oddly enough, I was on the scarcity mindset. And so I have put in the work and I'm still putting in the work. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think I go a little bit to the other side, like
Mhm.
I'm trying to
Mhm.
make up for the years I had the scarcity mindset. So it's like finding
Exactly.
balance. And what you're saying, oh my gosh, that's a lot of effort to think about how you feel before you spend. Because I'm taking notes. I'm always taking notes.
Well,
And to
that's
think
good.
about how you feel afterwards. Wow, I do not ever think about that. I usually feel pretty good when I start and I
Mhm.
feel good afterward. I have never I don't remember ever having shopper's remorse. I have friends who say, "Oh my goodness, I want to take this back." Anyway, I digress. We're going to stay on topic because this is really important. And I want the audience to think about this because it's not just about the love thing. If
Mhm.
we want to talk about, like you said, changing your mindset to match your goals and some type of wealth building in our community, we have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, please explain to our audience how money and marriage are tied together.
Oh my goodness. Isn't money like the number one reason why people get divorced in America?
You know what? I used to think it was infidelity and
Mm.
until I started doing research for
Yep.
starting this podcast. That
Yep.
was what I thought, but yeah.
Money
But
is a
I
big
can
deal.
understand that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
because money has, like we've been saying, right? There's so many emotions attached to it, and then we make it. Listen, here is something that I like. If there's anything you're gonna remember from today,
Mhm.
negative and positive emotions, they're just um chemically charged emotions.
Okay.
Negative and positive. The negative are not bad, and positive are not good. They're just like charged emotions. So you get a negative charge. I'm sorry.
Like a battery, your car battery.
Exactly. And then you get
Mhm.
a positive charge. It becomes bad when you decide that it's bad,
Hmm.
right? So what happens with money, we always say money is emotional, is because our reaction to money when it doesn't do what we want it to do, we get negative emotions.
Mm.
And then we don't realize that it's normal to have negative emotions when things don't work out. Instead of processing them, we resist them. And what you resist persists.
Mm.
So it compounds. Now it's this ball of negative emotions together that you're resisting. Imagine holding a beach ball underneath the water. If you miss a spot on that beach ball, it's going to just blow out of the water. And that's what happens. So when you have that kind of interaction with money, it creates friction, right? And so if you come at marriage feeling this way and you don't process it, you both have this just resistance when it comes to your emotions around money, and you don't have open communication because it itches you when you're talking about this thing that's called money,
Mhm.
your marriage is it's on shaky grounds.
Hmm.
And that's the reason why people get divorced, because they never had that real deep conversation. And then they got into marriage and they just behave completely different and don't even understand why they behave that way. It doesn't sustain a healthy relationship.
Hmm. Okay. That makes sense, and I think too why you need to have that conversation is because lots of people feel that that's personal.
Right.
And maybe things have changed a bit since I was married 18 years ago, but lots of people think that, you're asking about my credit score, that's personal. But these days it matters because let's say you get married and you decide you want to purchase real estate, make an investment in terms of a home or apartment building. And then you're sitting down at the table and you're ready to do stuff. And then they say, okay, we need to pull your credit report. Now, here you are married, making plans. I mean,
Mhm.
that can be a huge hit if you have not had that conversation prior. It doesn't mean that bad credit is a deal breaker, but fair enough, you
Right.
should know,
Right.
and say, "Well, this is not good,"
I
but at
mean,
least you won't have in your mind, "We're gonna get a house right away," if you're trying to
I think
achieve that
about
goal.
health wise. Don't you want to know each other's health
Mhm.
situation? That's
How
also
and how many
personal.
of but how many of us do it,
I mean,
really?
that's a very personal conversation. Like your
Yeah,
health is very personal,
yeah.
but you're gonna join forces. Like that's the most intimate relationship that exists. Like you
Mhm,
really want to go. Seriously, like you want to have this conversation. Trust
yeah.
me. It's
Mhm,
so important. Do not use the personal as an excuse. It will
mhm.
backfire
Mm,
100%.
You got that right. So let's say a couple they get married and then they realize that they are on totally different spending levels. You have the person, like I said, that is just an extreme spender. Maybe, like you said, they're emotionally charged. When they get upset, they spend. If they get excited, they spend, whatever. And then you have the other person who came from the scarcity mindset and they're like, I'm not going to spend a dime. Don't you spend a dime. We need to save for a rainy day, all of that. How do you suggest that a couple get on the same page?
It's hard. It's very hard. Money is one of the biggest, hardest conversations you ever had. But it's definitely doable. Again, I go back to your mindset, right? You have to really truly believe in the possibility of change. You have to. And the first person to realize that something is different in a relationship is not always the person that's right.
Mhm.
Okay. And I say that because we work a lot with women and sometimes we do work with couples. So the wife is usually the one that's like, "Oh, we need to do something. Something is wrong," right? Like she's like, "He's overspending." And so just because you're the first one to gain awareness like something needs to change doesn't mean you're the one doing it right.
Okay.
So that's the first thing you want to be aware of. The second thing is because it's work, even if you don't have your partner on board for the work, you can do the work on yourself first.
Hmm.
100% do the work, right? Build your own relationship with your finances. Own up to everything that you've done in the past and then let that go. And then decide the new foundation you want to have with money. Create a spending plan. And if you are building this relationship with money, you can take over the family finances. Most husbands wouldn't mind unless they're like
Mhm.
overly controlling, and you would have
Mhm.
known that when you were dating. So,
Mhm.
but take over the family finances and build on that. Create a spending plan and build on self discipline where you're sticking to the plan. That will give you so much confidence that if and you can even create a space where um he knows exactly how much money needs to be spent, and then you will know how to like prevent or rescue the family if his overspending gets out of the way or if it's her, right? Because we've had clients that it's either the husband that's the overspender or it's the wife. Those two scenarios are definitely possible. But like I teach 100% ownership. I don't believe in you blaming someone else for the situation you're in. You can 100% reverse the situation by
Hmm.
just changing who you are and what you're doing. So to start there. And if you're both on board for it, even better. Because the couples we work with that have been on board together, the transformation is magical. It's just beautiful. But it's doable. You just stay committed to the work.
Okay.
It's work.
So, in your practice, what is the most common problem that you see?
Avoidance. People don't know their numbers. People
Mm.
don't know how they're spending. They don't see. They use a lot of credit cards. So they
Mm.
don't actually check all of the expenses. Even with bills, sometimes bills get billed twice and they didn't even notice it. Yeah, so a lot of avoidance. And it's interesting because you have a lot of families that do have a spending plan, a budget, right?
Mhm.
But they're not checking on the budget. They just know how many, they have a list of the bills,
Mhm.
but they don't actually know how that's interacting with their paycheck and how
Right.
that's affecting their future goals. And if they're using credit cards without credit education,
Mhm.
that also gets lost in the translation because there's interest, there's just so many things that credit cards company do to you so they can get more of your money.
Mm.
And if you don't know what they're playing, what game they're playing, you're always gonna get caught. So
Mhm.
a lot of money avoidance. And then a lot of times when we work just the first month, we create so much awareness. It's just like so beautiful to see how they're like, wow, I didn't see that. Wow, I didn't see that. I can't believe this is happening. It's like, okay, still no judgment here.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's definitely number one problem I have to say.
Wow. Awareness. Okay. So, tell us exactly what it is that you do with couples.
Yeah, so when you come to us, we have to do a full assessment. And that's why I was like, if you're a couple, you need to like be completely honest because our clients are like super vulnerable. They have to tell us everything in order for us to help them. But we have created a space where there's no judgment. Like,
Mhm.
seriously, are you kidding? The four of us, I told you, we made all the mistakes. So
Mhm.
there's nothing that you can bring to me that would make me feel like, oh my gosh, how dare you? No, it will always be like, that's okay. It's totally fixable. So we create a lot of awareness by being like, they need to, like, we teach them how to be in touch with their finances, like, look at their numbers, know exactly the bills, the frequency of the bills, the frequency of the paycheck, any saving plans, their money behaviors. They save, they put money in the savings and it comes right out the next day.
Mm.
That's important to know why that's happening. Putting expenses on credit cards and never paying it back, right? And then taking on like 10 credit cards, maxing them out. So we create a lot of awareness where they really understand how they're spending. And that's when the truth gets revealed. Because remember, I said earlier that just because you're the one that discovered that there's a
Mhm.
problem doesn't mean you're right.
Okay.
Because there was a couple we worked with and she came to me and saying like her husband is out of control, they need help. I'm like, okay, great. So we started working together and guess what? She was the one that was overspending. So she was shocked. So this is what I'm
Wow.
saying. She was shocked. She was like, I can't believe it's me. She
Mhm.
didn't see it. So it's really fascinating. So the first step is you just need to see what's happening financially. And then we create a plan for you. You don't have to create another reason why people don't even budget is because to start budgeting, you have to create the budget. That's very
Mm,
stressful. Like
mhm.
literally you have to take all your numbers into one page, right? So we do that for our clients initially. They don't have to do it. So we really create a space where they're doing the work, but they're doing more of the mental work because that's where the secret is. If you can do the mental work, all the other strategies that are on Google will work. The reason they don't work is because your mind is not right where it needs to be.
So I would assume you do the same thing with a couple before they get married. Bring it all to the table. Let's make us aware.
Yes. Like,
Okay.
come on, let's open this up. And again, we create a non judgmental space. So we teach them how to even let go of shame or regret or overwhelm, right?
Mm,
Because one thing about your finances is if you want to have, I call that financial intimacy, your relationship with your money.
mhm.
And to have intimacy, you need to be honest and you need to just get rid of the judgment.
Okay.
So that's what you need to do with your finances individually, like personally. If I look at my past and I see things that I call mistakes,
Mhm,
but I'm the only reason I'm calling them mistakes is because I still have regret over them. Regret is the judgment.
mm,
So we create a space where you can let that go and now you can take lessons from those decisions you made in the past. Because they built you into who you are today. We want you to fall in love with yourself all over again,
mhm.
right? And so even if you get to do that before you get married, oh my goodness, you're you're set. Like success is definitely yours. But it's
Hmm.
so important to really reach that intimacy where you know what's happening with your finances. And when you design your financial plan and what you want to do with your money, after having forgiven yourself for everything, when things turn and they don't work according to the plan, you know exactly how to process those emotions. You're not panicking, you're not worried that you're going to fall back into old patterns because you know what you're doing.
That sounds amazing. Do you find that couples have trust issues or mistrust when it comes to money?
Yeah. Yeah, people have that because they don't openly communicate about it. We have a couple, they've been married for 25 years. Beautiful couple, they love each other, right? They have 3 kids. So they've built a really beautiful family, but they never really talked about money. And like you mentioned earlier, they definitely were not compatible.
Wow.
She came from a family where she got everything she wanted, and he came from a family that did not have anything at all. So
Mm,
2 different viewpoints on finances. And then they just never had open communication about finances. So that was a little rocky at first.
mhm,
Um, and because she was not in touch with the finances, he was the one managing it. Because she didn't see what was happening, she always didn't know if they had money or not. She never knew.
mm,
So that could create some stress and some distrust because if you don't know what's happening,
mhm,
and then if you go spend money and there's no money to be spent, you're gonna be like, is he hiding something from me?
mhm.
So awareness again, knowing what's happening together. It took her a minute to really like be okay with, okay, I need to look at the money. I need to be aware because she still didn't want to face it.
Mm, mhm.
But eventually she really built that level of self trust where she was like, I can look at money and it's fine. And knowing what's happening with their finances is so good for her because she's the one that's doing grocery shopping.
Okay. Mhm,
So she'll go to the store now, fully aware of what's happening, and she no longer has to call her husband and be like, "Can we afford this?" She
mhm,
knows. And so she doesn't have to use that kind of language.
mhm,
Can I afford it? Is it part of the plan? That's really what you want
mhm.
to talk about. It's not about affording, it's about creating a plan and being loving enough to respect the plan. And that's the kind of language they're now using around the kids, which is
Wow.
beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, distrust can definitely be there, but it's also because of lack of knowledge.
And wow. Okay. And that scoots in right under awareness, right? Knowing
Yes.
Okay. I could go on and on, but clearly we need a part two. And so I am going to invite you back because I have more to chat about and to hopefully you will be willing to share your wisdom because this is so, so important.
I really hope that your listeners take this as seriously as listen, starting a new life is fun. I'm all for it, but let's do it with a really strong foundation. And this is it.
This is it. I did not know everything was about love. When I got married, everybody had whatever their spending practices were, and we just didn't sit down and have a conversation about it. Some things were obvious. We both brought children from
Hmm.
previous marriages, so we knew those types of things. You know what you do. You date people, you go out and eat. What's left, right? You eat
Yeah,
out all the
right.
time,
Yeah.
and it's like you get with the emotions and you talk about marriage. But as I have grown as a woman and in marriage and in my personal money mindset, I'm like, I got to have a talk about this. Like,
Hmm.
we need to know as women, men too, but I'm saying my show is geared to women, how important money is in marriage because we often separate the two and say, well, we'll deal with that when we get married.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to go to grocery shopping, you have to get shoes and all of this stuff. But to really go with a real awareness. I wish I had known. But the past is the past, no regrets. That's why I'm doing what I do. And I appreciate you taking time out to share your wisdom and your knowledge and the know how. So, whoever's listening, if they're not married already, they can come up with a plan. And if they are married, they can pivot, right?
Hmm.
You can always pivot, you can always change. And so, I'm going to invite you back for a part two because this has been amazing. In the meantime, if you are dating, if you know someone looking to get married, or if you're engaged, please share this podcast with a friend. Our goal is to help 1 million women become happily married. And happily is an operative word and staying married. And we want to include money in that equation. So please like, share, and subscribe. If you have questions for our special guests, please leave them in the comments. And until next week, may you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.